Dr. Regine Muradian, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back.
Well, of course. After we did the first episode, you and I immediately said we have to do a part 2 and just dive deeper on the kid issues because the kid issues are big. They're major.
Yes. So let's jump right into that. I know we talk about it all the time, right?
We do on the phone because we're friends. So let's preface that by saying we do speak a lot. We talk about everything. And that's what I love about you is that you're a professional. But when I'm on the phone with you, I don't feel you're giving me professional advice. It's just a conversation as a friend. But you put things in a certain way that's so easy to digest and understand. And so grateful to have you in my life and to have you back here.
Thank you. Ditto. Feel the same.
So this conversation really was inspired by Nikki. And I think the idea of kids going back to school. So we can definitely broaden on some of those topics. But I think looking at Nikki, his teacher wrote an email to me. This is the first week of school and said, you know, Nikki appears to me to be a child who has very big emotions. And so the first few days of school, he would get very upset. He would miss his dad. He would want to go home. He would want to call him. He doesn't play with the other kids. He gets a little loud and then he gets quiet. So looking at a child who is 6 years old, it's now September. Everyone's almost back to school. What are some of these things that you see and how can we help a kid like Nikki who's trying to adjust?
Well, I think the first thing is, like a lot of kids are going through, that is adjustment, right? So they're coming back from being on vacation. They haven't had school. They're coming back from a lack of routine, lack of structure, which happens a lot. And that brings up, it's like change, right? And it takes about, 20 days to change a habit. So think about it that way.
Okay.
So a lot of the times, especially he's 6, right?
He just turned 6.
Yeah.
He's the youngest in his class and it's a new class. I don't think he has a lot of friends in that class yet.
Yeah. And I asked you that, and that's a big part of it is what has been new for him, right? So a lot of times newness can cause anxiety and cause these emotions. And sometimes the way they express their emotions, aggression, irritability, maybe defiance, or maybe even being quiet or more isolated or reserved, is as a result of what they're feeling. So I'm actually pretty impressed that the teacher reached out to you and said that. That means she's been very attentive to how he's been feeling.
And I'm so grateful. I just sent her an email today asking a follow-up question, has his behavior improved? Because I gave her some tips of how I think he can be handled in class. I usually allow Nikki, when he starts to get these very big emotions, to calm down on his own. Sometimes I'll notice he'll go and play with his own toys, even though other kids are around, and he needs that space. He did that at the beach recently, and I realized that about my child and witnessing him in that environment. He needs a moment to ground himself in something else and be away from the other kids.
Another thing that comes to mind too, it's really possible that sometimes with kids, if like sensory, right, if there's too much going on, if there's a lot of loud noises, or even like us as adults, where we just need that quiet space to just take a, we used to call it timeout. I don't really like the word timeout, but it's just taking that breather in space. And even for teenagers, right, when they get overwhelmed in the classroom, or kids who have ADHD and they just have a hard time just sitting down for 45 minutes at a time, it's okay, take a 20-minute break, come back, start. It's the same as the Pomodoro effect, right? Even for adults, when we're sitting in front of a computer at a big length of time, take 20-minute break, or work for 20 minutes, take a 10-minute break, work for 20, take a 10. And that kind of gives them the space instead of responding and reacting to his negative behavior. It's just pretty much, I'm not going to praise that negative behavior right now, but I will pay attention to you in the sense where I can see you're frustrated right now and I'll come back to you later. Same if you're talking to an adult or a friend who's maybe snapping at you or irritable, you would say, I think it is important to say, I'm noticing that you're a little frustrated right now or irritable. Why don't you call me back when you're feeling a little better? And that's you putting that boundary of, I can see how you're feeling, but I'm not going to be talked to that way. Right.
Well, I think with Nikki, it goes beyond just the first week of school. I think he's naturally a child who is a little bit more aggressive. He's also a very sweet child. So it's hard for me to put him in that category to say that my child is aggressive, because I don't think he is generally aggressive, but he does show aggressive behavior. He will get very upset with me sometimes when he pushes my boundaries and I say, no, you can't do that, or no, you can't have that. He will call me names and he's 6. So I'm starting to worry. And at what point do I really need to worry?
Well, it's again, he's showing his frustration. So remember the story, I think we did this on the last podcast, where you sat down with him Sometimes doesn't even necessarily.
That was with Chris.
That was with Chris. But I remember that because that's a really good way in order. And again, every child's so different in terms of their personality.
Yes.
But sitting down and, even if it's not even talking, it's just, I'm just going to sit here with you. And again, depending on their age, you would react differently. But it's not really giving in to that negative behavior, right? We can call it out and see, I can see you're feeling this, or it's not okay for you to call me this name, or I don't feel comfortable when you slam the door. I understand that you're doing that out of anger. And usually I say, let them cool down, but make sure that you do the repair fairly quickly in less than 24 hours. Like, don't wait till the next day or the day after, because then the emotions have dissipated and then they'll just kind of forget about it.
Right.
But then you'll notice the pattern repeating in other situations. So it's almost like it's hard for us moms because we have to help them, they'll say, well, I felt that was very disrespectful. Yes, it's disrespectful. You do have to call it out. That's our job, is to guide them and direct them when they do act out. But understanding that under that acting out, there's other things that they're feeling. And sometimes for a 6-year-old, it's hard to express what that feeling is.
What are they feeling?
Well, you have to ask him. Have you asked him, for example?
He doesn't say. He gets fixated on the thing that he wants, like the iPad game or the toy at the store. And he sees only that. So he's not, he's 6.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're saying no, so I'm going to act out, because maybe if I act out enough, or I'm, put a tantrum, you're going to do what I want, and they will push that boundary.
So with a child like Nikki, who is very emotional, is softer parenting the modality you want to implement, or more stern parenting?
I think what's important is it's not even about being stern or being soft. It's kind of finding that middle ground in the middle where you're placing the same boundary for one child and for the other. It's like the same boundary. It's naming the emotion, stepping away and saying, we're going to come back and talk about it. Right? But you don't ignore it. I think what I like a lot, and I talk a lot about my picture books, is that's how they were created, is kids have a hard time naming the emotion. So sometimes through pictures or there's so many books on anger, on how to express their anger, where they identify with the character. And you say, oh, do you identify with this character? And how do you feel about that? And what do you think about this? And I think emotions come out that way. I also like naming colors. What color are you right now? What's that emotion? Like Inside Out. Remember Inside Out?
Yes.
If you haven't watched it, that's a really good one to watch with him, because there's, it's all about, it's like the emojis, right? So are you feeling red for angry? Are you feeling blue for sad? Just name the emotion and then start from there.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I also worry that he compares himself to his older brother. I was looking at a video today of their soccer tournament, and Nikki is waiting to get the trophy because all the kids are getting a trophy. And he's almost like sad and angry that they haven't called his name yet. And the second they do, he gets so excited. And that tells me he likes to be validated. He wants the appreciation, the attention his older brother gets. Chris is 9. Chris is very charming, very charismatic, has lots of friends at school. And I worry sometimes that Nikki doesn't feel like he's like Chris and doesn't have that charming gene.
Yeah. So he's comparing, which is very common with siblings. They're constantly comparing one another, especially when it's a first child. A second child tends to compare themselves a lot, especially if they're different personalities. You'll have the extrovert and then the introvert.
Right.
And, he's still 6. So, but I think that's something you picked up on pretty quickly. See, journalist skills.
Journalistic skills, yes.
And, again, stepping back with him, if he were to bring it up. Some kids will say, oh, you're not praising me, or you're not, doing the same for me as you do for my older brother, for example. Let's say if that did come out, you would really focus on his positive traits and character. You're different personalities, but you're unique in this way, and he's unique in that way. We're not the same, but we each have our strengths and our weaknesses. So you're pointing those out, because then it kind of can create this animosity or jealousy between siblings when one is praised, one's getting the straight A's, the other one is really struggling, or the sick child syndrome where one child's sick, the other one's, the older one doing really well. And parents put all this attention on the sick child where the older one now feels neglected. So it really depends how the situation or what's the story there.
At what point should I be worried about Nicky if his big emotions get too big?
So what does too big mean for you?
It's just he'll say things and he'll act out in a way that I think this is not normal. It doesn't feel normal.
And how about taking it out, those emotions? I always like to go to things that he can do that he loves. Does he like to draw? Does he like playing a specific sport and maybe, doing something extra with that?
He loves his dog. They love Legos. He loves to color. And just, so everything.
So yeah, and it's putting that energy into things that he really loves. And I would even start, now you're already seeing the red flags, right? It may pass. It may intensify. We don't know. We just have to keep it. You have to keep an eye on it and see what happens. But it's all about increasing praise.
Right.
Try to increase praise.
I do.
And give me an example of praise for you.
Well, when I spoke to his teacher, I said, Nicky, I spoke to your teacher today. She said, you're such a special boy and she loves having you in class. He goes, yeah, right. He dismisses the praise. And
or he doesn't believe.
He's left-handed. So I always say, Nicky, you're the special one because you're a lefty. And he's like, I am, Mom, I'm special. I'm like, yeah, you're special. None of us can write in left hand and you are. So I do try to say, I can see how his shoulders will slouch down like this and he'll have his insecurities. I'm a very deep empath, even with my children, so I see it. And I do try to bring him out of it, but sometimes my words just don't land because he's 6. He doesn't want to hear it. And I'm already the awkward mom, So it's tough, of course.
So, when I talk about praise, think about it at home. What are some things at home? And I think parents miss this a lot, are little things that you can do at home. Oh, I noticed you made your bed this morning. Or I noticed that you put the dishes in the sink. I'm so proud of you. You're praising the behavior. I don't think we do enough of that. I'll have parents say, well, that's something normal. They should be doing that. I don't have to praise for them taking out the trash, or I don't have to praise them for getting an A, or I don't have to praise them for XYZ issue. But I disagree with that because I think it's not obviously you don't want to overpraise like you're doing it all day long. It is about naming the positives and the things that they are doing because they will increase those behaviors and then you'll notice that the negative behaviors will start decreasing. Right?
So what does praise do to their little minds?
It makes them feel good. Right? They feel good. They feel that I want to please, kids want to please us. They want to please parents. They want to make sure that you're saying, oh, great job. I'm so proud of you that you got that job or you got that internship or, as they get older or that, wow, you built this Lego all by yourself. Can you show me how you did that? Making them feel important.
Yes.
Making them feel like they do have a superpower. Making them feel special, right? In their own way. Right.
How do we approach discipline when he's acting out in those ways? Because I generally am a very calm person.
Yeah.
And I can keep it calm and I can keep it quiet for a while, but then I snap. And I did snap this weekend where I got very loud and I was yelling at them. I'm not proud of it, but it happens. And so, how do we come back from that? I know we mentioned and we spoke about this last time. It's about the repair and putting separation between the behavior and who I am. So I can say to them, Mommy apologizes. She didn't mean to get so loud. I'm not angry at you, all those things. But I want to enforce the discipline and the sternness because I do think he needs a bit of it, especially because when he goes to his dad's house, the parenting style may be a little bit more stern. I don't want to then be the soft mom. But I also do want to be soft because I think that's part of my superpower.
And you shouldn't change that if that's who you are, right? Remember, it's keeping those boundaries. And, I think consequences are important because life is all about action and consequences.
Right.
And especially with kids, kids need structure. They like to feel the structure. And what I used to do with my kids, right now they're older, so it's, these things don't happen anymore. But when they were younger, of course, we all lose our cool. They really can get underneath our skin.
Yes.
We are human, and it doesn't matter how calm of a person you are, we do feel guilty at times, right? And this is part of today's topic too, right? The self-care we wanted to discuss. We have to check ourselves and be mindful of that. An apology is important. I messed up. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
Right? And that wasn't okay. And mommy should have done it this way instead. And I will be very mindful of doing that way next time.
Even
Why?
at 6 years old, he'll understand.
Yes. Why? Because you want them to repeat the same behavior. They're role modeling, right? They're watching us. And if you're able to role model an apology when he's at school the next time and he does something wrong, right? Hurts someone's feelings or, does something he's not supposed to be doing, he's going to know the lesson of apology, right? He's going to be able to dig in deep there and say, mommy does apologize, and so I can do that too. And it's all about recognition and being in that awareness.
At what age do we start to see the shift in that behavior?
Which behavior? Like,
for a child like Nikki, who is very aggressive at this age, and I don't want to say very aggressive, but he tends to run aggressive. When do we start to see that calm down a bit, where they are able to regulate their emotions?
I think as early as third grade, you'll kind of notice them kind of coming into more into their identity. And then middle school's a big shift too. Starting sixth grade now, it's almost like the mask fell off on this end, from until sixth grade. And then now they're kind of figuring out who they are, their identity. What do they like? They start liking girls and boys and, wanting to show off or wanting to be, the life of the party or whatever it is, or being popular. So you do see a shift. And then middle school, which is the toughest age, really, 6th to 8th grade. And then you have 9th grade, right? A new adjustment. So think about it. He's 6. This is almost like his first adjustment, and he's going to go through many. And so it's all about how do you guide him through these adjustments. And again, keep on talking about those emotions. Even if they close the door on you, which he will one day, right? It's like,
oh, he does now.
Oh, he does? Well, there you go. I need to be alone. Leave me alone. I say keep on checking and saying, okay, well, I'm here when you're ready to talk.
Right.
I'm here. I'm here.
He'll turn around and say, Mommy, I hate you. And I'm like, it's okay, Nikki. I love you anyway. I'm like, you don't have to love me, but I love you.
Yes.
And then, at the end of the night, he'll sleep next to me and he'll say, Mommy, I love you.
Yes.
So he'll change. And I know that. I know that he changes and comes back down to his sweet boy self. But it kills me. It breaks my heart when I see him acting that way because he's also in pain.
So asking him also, what could you have done differently today? I know you had a lot of emotions. You were feeling big feelings. What could you have done differently?
I don't know if he'll engage in that conversation just yet.
You never know.
Yeah. Okay, so let's expand on this to some of the older kids.
Yes.
It's back to school. What are some of the anxieties kids are feeling?
New classrooms, new friends. Again, it goes back depending on the age, right? Identity. School being hard. Fears, lots of fears.
Fears about what?
Fears about grades and performance and not fitting in, so a lot of kids are going through a lot. I feel.
And how do you address that as a parent, or how do you look for signs that your child might feel uncomfortable and might be developing some of those anxious patterns because it's a new environment?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times you'll see isolation, right? Or they will often express like stomach aches, or I just don't want to go to school, or I'm not comfortable. And I think, again, it goes back, just like we're talking about Nikki, is having those conversations. Obviously, you could talk a little more, you can be more detailed, but sitting down with them and saying, oh, I noticed this. I noticed that you were having a hard time. One thing I want to mention is parents get really freaked out half the time is, well, we're sitting in the car. I'm asking, how's your day? Good. Just good. And you know what? Good's good. It's okay.
Right.
That's normal. They don't have to talk all the time. Right. So as long as I love I love you, it's fine. You hate me, I love you. It's okay. They don't really hate you. Right. They just, that's how they express their emotions. And older kids will say that too. Like, I hate you, or they'll curse at their parents, and parents can take it so personal. And then we kind of come back and we just relax, and we come back and we have a conversation about it and really address the fact that it was not okay for you to say that. Or a lot of times kids get upset of what they're wearing, or what their, parents get upset at clothing, or they get upset with friendships, or they get upset at, curfews not being respected. There's so many different things that can happen. But again, it goes back to which is my favorite question I ask, well, what could you have done differently, right? You understand that I'm upset about XYZ issue. How do you feel about that? You may not agree with me. They will not agree with you most of the time because it's my way or the highway, right? That's just how the brain is wired. And it's almost like they're really stuck in that ego space, but not all children, right? I think it just really depends on, again, your personality.
You think parents get into the ego space?
Kids get in the ego space,
okay.
and parents can too, right? So it's really reminding parents that it's not personal. Half the time it has nothing to do with you, but could have something to do with your response. So,
how could parents respond in a wrong way in these circumstances when it comes to wanting to be more inquisitive with their kids?
Yeah, I think, well, you never tell me anything, if you don't talk to me, I'm going to do this, or, just more putting them more in a corner, I think could be harder. And then they will tend to shut down versus giving them control. Kids want to feel they are in control.
How do we give kids control?
By giving them space. Giving them space and verbally giving them space and letting them know, listen, I can see, name the behavior again, I can see you're frustrated. I'm not a fan that you're in your room all day, for example, right? Parents complain about that. I really like for you to try to get out. What are some things you can do? Where could you study in a different area, right? Again, it's naming the behavior and saying, I'm here when you need to talk.
Right.
Right? We've heard a lot of stories of kids also committing, when they committed suicide, teens, and parents having no clue. And these are very present parents, for example.
No signs at all?
Well, he was at Bible study from 5 to 7 p.m. That doesn't make sense. I saw nothing. He was happy. He was making plans, for example. How does this happen?
How does it happen?
Some kids internalize it, right? You got the internalizers who keep it all in, who can put on that brave face, right? We have examples of actors who were depressed that we had no idea about, that took their lives, right? Behind that smile, there's a lot of pain. It doesn't mean that I'm smiling, or it doesn't mean, we look at Instagram or people see, oh, you look so put together, or life looks so great for you. But we don't know what's going on through each picture or through each person's life, right? So sometimes it's hard to recognize. There are the common signs, but sometimes it's hard to recognize the signs in someone who's more of an internalizer, right? Because they could put on that face or that mask.
What are some signs?
For the internalizer, I think, is keeping in emotions. So for a parent, they may think, oh, but that's how they are. They never really talk, or my child doesn't really share much. So that's
quiet.
Normal.
He likes to keep to himself.
Yeah.
But don't ignore that as a parent.
But don't ignore that, because a lot of the times it's through our checking in and talking to them and creating, space and opportunities and hearing them. Like my kids will say sometimes, oh, Mom, I want to spend time with you. Or, and I take that. Sometimes I'm working. Sometimes it's during times where you can't spend time, but you have to create the time and say, okay, let's go watch a movie. Let's sit down and watch a movie together. Even though if they say, no, I don't want to do that right now, it's like, okay, I'm asking. Remember, you did ask me that you did want to spend time with me. I'm here. Let's make a date night, So really creating those times and moments together. Yeah.
Do you find that adolescent teens are suffering from depression now more than before? Are we seeing it increase because of social media or other triggering factors?
I think we're seeing it more now, not because necessarily there is more. It's because we are more in our awareness. Yesterday was National Suicide Prevention Day. We're seeing it more because we are talking about it more.
Right.
It's out there. Social media is a gateway for kids to be able to speak out how they feel.
And can you talk on this a bit? We heard the story of the teenager who committed suicide and the parents claimed, ChatGPT showed him the way. Is that something we should be concerned about when it comes to the older kids and their access to everything?
Everything is at their fingertips now, where they can Google anything. They can search for anything. It's almost like a kid who's searching illnesses and, oh, what does this mean? And then you've got the worst news, right? That pops up, and it's really scary. And so I always encourage kids, well, talk to your parents about it. if you're worried about something, like my daughter also will come to me all the time and we'll talk about it. And I said, just don't believe everything you read. I even tell adults, like, don't Google, try not to Google,
Right.
because it just increases your anxiety levels at all the things, especially if you're more of an anxious person, at what are the possibilities.
Right.
But just for, in general, for teens who are struggling, I say there's always, sometimes there's a sign and sometimes there isn't. Sometimes they're just struggling in silence. There's this new documentary that came out. I just finished it yesterday on Netflix. It was a cyberbullying. It was just really interesting, which we know how much the cyber world, right, through text messages or putting someone down, how that can impact their self-esteem. You're already, as a teenager, you're worried about how you look, your hair, how you're dressing,
So many insecurities.
So many. And now you have to go home and deal with it now online. Or FOMO.
So as parents, how do you monitor that? I mean, I would want to read my kids' text message if they're in high school. I mean, I don't want to infringe on their privacy, but at the same time, I feel I have a right to know.
Yeah.
If they're 14 or 13, I want to know what they're looking online. I want to know who they're texting, what they're talking about. My 9-year-old son, Chris, has an iPad and he's able to text his friends, he's able to text his cousins, but I see it there. It's all right there in front of me. I have nothing to be concerned about. But with older kids who can hide it better, how can parents stay on top of that?
It's very hard. It's very hard. I don't see everything. It's very difficult. Do you know that alone is a job? That alone is a job, and kids will say, well, that's my privacy. And when it comes to online and cyber, I say there is no privacy, right? So even if I see an inappropriate photo, right? An appropriate photo, right away we'll have that conversation. It's like, I don't think that's appropriate. This is my reasoning why, and I need you to take that down. And this is why. And 100% of the time, I'll say it's listened to when you can come from a calm space. And it is about watching. So you're following your kids. I think depending on the age limit, I think now kids are having social media way too young. They're not able to consume all this information. And you got to be really careful. And the only company I know of, it's called Bark. You can look it up. They have a phone. So if parents are looking to get a phone, the Bark phone is really great because it's almost like a copy. You get a copy of their phone. So Bark will send you a phone and then you're able to give them that phone. It looks like a real phone, like a Samsung. And it's an Android phone and you could see everything. It's almost like a copy match. And I know there's a lot of apps. Again, I'm not an IT person, but I know there's a lot of apps and ways that you can control.
And monitor.
As they get older. Obviously, there are some social media apps that you cannot. Messages disappear. I mean, there's so much out there right now, but I think it's, again, talking about that safety issue. But this is how they are connecting nowadays. They're connecting via TikTok and Snapchat, and this is how they're getting to know one another.
I know, my kids like Snapchat.
Yeah.
Chris loves Snapchat because he loves the filters.
Yeah.
And he sends it to his friends. And it's cute. He's not doing anything wrong. So I don't want to discourage him from his self-expression.
Yes.
But at the same time, I'm concerned about where that could go in the future.
Yeah. Well, those are things you can have access to.
They don't post anything. They just take photos.
Well, at this age, right? So later on as they get older, I think what's important is for us to be able to, it's almost like, I own the phone. It's not your phone, first of all, right? I can check the phone whenever I ask you to give me your phone, you have to hand over the phone. So sometimes parents implement that rule. Some parents implement a rule where they put the phones in one location at night. So the kids are not on the phones all day and it's out of their bedroom, which is preferred. Or giving them independence, like, okay, I want you to put it in the bathroom or put it in a different location. I'm not going to take it away into my room, but you can put it in a different location. So you're not sleeping with your phone in your room, right? We use the phone too much.
I think that's a big one, allowing kids to have the phone at night, older kids.
Yeah.
I take my kids' phone away in the evenings or their iPads, but I do allow them 10 to 15 minutes before bed because that's when I shower and when I'm getting dressed. I'm a single mom, so I need a little bit of help during the week. So that's the time where I get to do my thing and they're doing their thing. So I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
But I do take it away before bedtime. With the older kids, you're right. I think it's so smart to say, put it in the other room. I'll let you put it where it's safe for you.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with the reason why, I mean, that's giving them some control and independence.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I say that? Because when they're struggling, kids now have a really hard time focusing, doing homework. They're multitasking. So they'll have YouTube open, they're doing homework. They're not able to really pay attention and absorb the information that they're reading. And they're not doing well on their tests, right? So study skills have, they just don't have the patience because the brain is not wired that way to be doing so many tasks. It is one of the skills, I have to say, this new generation will have, is the ability to multitask. But it's very tiring on the body. So the same way as we put the phone in the bathroom at night, for example, away from you, so you're not tempted to look at it at night or, and we know that the blue light can cause insomnia and difficulty sleeping. So it's really best an hour before bedtime, just try not to, and not to do it in the morning when you first wake up. Give yourself 5 minutes, you wake up and take a breather, breathe in and out, and just, 2-3 minutes to yourself, and then start your day and then do what you have to do. I want to go back to the homework piece, which I think a lot of parents will connect with, is if I'm able to have that self-discipline to put the phone in the bathroom, and I tell also the kids that I work with in terms of doing homework and focusing and paying attention is, how about you put the phone in another room while you're doing homework, study for 20 minutes, and then you could take a 5-minute break and go see all the messages you got. How exciting. So
that's a good balance.
Yeah, it gives that boost of studying and focus. Right.
What are some other tips to balance out the things they love versus the things they need to do?
I always like making a list, telling them to make a list of things that they really enjoy.
Okay.
Right? So there's going to be things you don't love, right? That you don't like to do, like
homework.
What else? Making your bed, taking chores,
brushing teeth.
Yeah. Showering, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. My kids complain about showering as if I'm torturing them.
Oh, it'll get better. I promise.
They're stinky boys at the end of the day.
Yeah. As they get older, you won't have to deal with that anymore.
Thank gosh.
That's the good news. It doesn't stay like this. But I think that if they have a list of things that they really love to do, and you're kind of doing it with them, I think that's a good bonding thing to do, especially at this age, is they have something to look forward to. And that's like a reward. Like my kid loves Legos. She was obsessed with building Legos, even at 17, like not too long ago. And so one of the things was, encouraging her to, okay, so you like to do this. This is great. But we know Legos are expensive, right? It's I don't want to just buy
my
it.
paycheck goes to the Lego store.
Right?
All of it.
Yeah. But it's about...
But I love that they play Legos.
Yes.
It keeps them present, keeps them focused, keeps their little hands working. I get in there. I do it with them. I mean, we love Legos in my house.
And it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good for the brain and the mental exercise and just detaching from... the outside world and just being present.
Okay.
Yeah.
So something I really struggle with, I'm divorced and my listeners know I'm divorced.
Yes.
So my children have a wonderful dad and I'm not worried about that one bit. However, our styles are different in terms of our approach. I'm a softer person. I speak calmer. He's a little more... his voice is more amplified, so it's different. And you can certainly say that about his family as well. They're just more expressive. They're more passionate when they speak. Yes. And I think for a child like Nikki sometimes, because he'll say, stop yelling, stop yelling. And I think he interprets loud conversations, passionate conversations as yelling.
Yeah.
How can I ensure that when my child is there, he's not picking those things up without understanding what it is?
When he's there, you don't have much control.
You don't, and that's so scary.
Right, and it's not like, and that's the part of letting that go, unless, of course, they're, I say just in general, not your kid, but if a child's in danger or if they're expressing emotional distraught, that's a different story. But in general, when we're talking about co-parenting, we can't really control what happens at the other parent's house, right? It's their rules. Now, does it harm them in the sense where they'll come back to you? Yes, they'll be a little off balance. It's very normal to be off balance, right? Even if the parenting, even when couples are married, the parenting is different, right? We see this all the time. That's why couples fight so much about the parenting styles.
Right.
So believe it or not, it's not much different in terms of how they internalize. They may see actually more conflict in a united home when the parenting styles are different. So usually I tell parents, if you never disagree in front of the child. Never. Try not to disagree together. It's like, oh, I don't agree with what you said. Yes, you can go or ask your mom or ask your dad, because then it puts more pressure on the other parent to make the decisions. I said, no, we are going to make, this is what I always like to say, and even now is, we will talk about it and we will let you know.
Okay.
I will let you know. Right. So I'm not saying yes. I'm not speaking for the other person. I speak for myself, and we just let them know that I'll let you know and I'll get back to you on that. But if there isn't any co-parenting, some parents, they're just alone and there isn't another parent, then, that's not, they may experience different challenges with grandparents or with, right? So it all depends what comes back at you. But if he says, Mommy, I don't like the loud noises or the loud voices.
He doesn't say I don't like the loud noises. He basically, when we are trying to discipline him and we might get a little loud, he'll say, stop yelling. But he's just trying to say, don't yell at me.
Yeah.
But I also think that he just doesn't understand when it gets loud, what it is.
Yeah.
And he just mimics the behavior.
Yeah. And that's very important. Kids do mimic behaviors, right? I remember saying to my kids when they're little, like, let's talk with our small voices, not our big voices.
You still speak with a small voice.
Do I speak
This
with a
doesn't help, yes, for someone who's half deaf, Regine. For the record,
loud.
I have a deaf ear.
I know.
It's my right ear.
And I always forget.
I know.
I'm
you
so
speak
sorry.
so
I'm
low.
so bad.
You need to just text me.
Speaking a little bit, when they feel like we're loud, right? Especially if you're used to speaking calmly and then they can suddenly hear you getting upset. Sometimes that does draw their attention.
Right.
And you mentioning, I don't like to feel this way, but mommy needs a timeout right now, or mommy needs some space, or mommy needs to calm down and I will come back. But naming also what that emotion feels for them and just getting more information when they share that.
Right.
What do you think you could say to, let's say to your dad when that happens? Or what do you feel you could say to someone who's someone you can reach out to when you're feeling that way? What is something you can do? Let them start thinking. It doesn't mean he's 6, he doesn't know.
Let them come up with a solution.
Let them come up with a solution. Really train them to come up with a solution instead of us constantly saving and going in there and trying to do it for them. Because we're actually decreasing their critical thinking skills.
And we're trying to control the situation.
Right. And then they don't feel in control.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. And then aggression. And then they show the the lack of control in other ways.
Is it concerning when kids get 2 different types of parenting styles in a divorce setting?
I would say no.
Are they not confused then?
I would say they're not confused because they already know this is how mom is, this is how dad is.
My kids will say all the time, you're the nice one, Mom.
See?
Because their dad is stricter. And that's fine.
Yeah. And actually that's a balance.
He's not doing anything I don't agree with. It's just his style is different.
Yeah. And that's okay.
And I try to agree. So Chris got a new iPad from my brother as a birthday gift.
Yeah.
And his dad said he's too attached to it. I think he's too young. Having one iPad is enough. He doesn't need one in both homes. Okay. So I'm taking it away for a few years. And I said, okay, I agree. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. Absolutely. So I want them to see that even though we are divorced, certain things, we will come together as a united front so that they don't try to cheat the system, and get away with certain things at my house versus, when they're with their dad.
And taking advantage. Because what happens is when they're mad at you, they'll go to the other parent. When they're mad at the other parent, they'll come to you. And that's not okay. So that has to be nipped in so that they know that. I'm very big on being a united front. I think that's important.
It's not always easy.
It's not. And not for many parents, it's not. But if we can remember the message that we send to the kids, which is united, and I'll talk to your dad and then I'll let you know about it or whatever it is, the situation. We'll discuss it so they can see. And also agreeing, like, okay, well, that was your dad's decision and that's okay. And he was right about that. Do you understand why? Again, doesn't matter. As young as 6 is starting to have these conversations, right? I think it's so healthy and it's helpful for them because imagine they're observing, but they're not expressing. We have to teach them how to express their emotions. It's really hard just age-wise to express your emotions, but we have to teach them how to express. Even, when I ask, well, what are you feeling? So a lot of people can't name the feeling because they were never taught how to name the feeling.
I certainly wasn't taught.
But let's be realistic, Alina. who sat with us when we were younger?
No one.
Can we do a survey on this? Who really sat with you when you were younger asking you, how are you feeling today?
No.
I don't remember that. We just figured it out, right? No one really asked us why we were crying, why we were upset, why we felt a certain way. We didn't dissect things the way we do now. Things weren't as expressive. I think social media has really helped with, right? It has a double-edged sword where it's given a medium and a platform to express, to learn, just like this podcast, right? And learning new information.
Well, people have tools now that they didn't have access to before. And also when we were growing up, it was very survival based. Our parents weren't thinking about my emotional well-being. They were thinking about how to pay the rent, so it's a different lifestyle. And I get it. And many people struggle with that today. So I don't take that away. But I think it is helpful to understand, the emotion that your children are feeling, allow them to name it, to express it, to talk about it. And the emotions separate from you.
Yes. And
not to confuse the two. As I said, Nikki has big emotions, but Nikki is not a bad child. And I need him to understand that.
Yeah. Because then he'll internalize it. Oh, I'm bad. And letting him know, and not even using that word, obviously, but they'll internalize it, or, well, I'm not good enough. And these are I call them little imprints of traumas, right? That carry on. And I could be sitting with a 40-year-old and asking them, well, what is your first memory of this feeling that you're feeling now? And they'll name the feeling. Oh, I was in kindergarten and I remember my teacher yelled at me, or I remember I was all alone at the lunch table, or whatever it was, or I wasn't invited to an event. And that's the feeling that's coming up for me. So those are little imprints, right? We can't be there for them all the time. We can't shelter them. Gosh, guilty of that as well in terms of protection. We try to protect. I mean, right? You're a mom at the end of the day. I think moms.
My fear, with Nikki always is, because he's the younger one and he was 4 when the divorce was happening. I fear, there's trauma there, and there's no reason for him to experience trauma. I think we did the best we could, and I really do think we did the best we could. But I do fear that there might be trauma. Maybe he misses me. Maybe he doesn't know how to relay that. Maybe he misses his dad. And, what's going on in that little mind of that little child, and how are they feeling traumatized?
Yes.
And are they traumatized, or is it just natural growing pains?
Yes. And the word traumatized sounds so
jarring.
Yes. But the reality is every human walking this earth has some form of trauma. We will never escape trauma. It doesn't mean if your kids are growing up in the best household, everyone is going to experience something, whether it's abandonment, or it's a feeling of guilt, whether it's rejection. These are all trauma wounds. Right?
So we shouldn't be afraid of children experiencing trauma. We need to more focus on how to get them to express what they're feeling, because trauma is inevitable, but giving them the tools to talk about it from an early age.
Absolutely. Yes. So the younger, the better.
So we can't protect them. We can only help them.
Yes. And that's why I did the books.
You're amazing.
Right? It's through the pictures. At this age, it's all through pictures, right? You create these conversations.
Right.
You create the space. And for us as moms, not to feel guilty, it's not going to be perfect all the time. I mean, I don't even like that word perfect. But we're going to make mistakes and we're going to feel what we feel. But that means you're being a good parent. If you're not suffering, you're not being a good parent. Did you know that?
Really?
I had a friend who told me that.
Well, what are some negative forms of suffering that parents, know?
No, suffering meaning when your kids are struggling, you're suffering. When your kids are sad, you're suffering. That means I'm paying attention. That means I'm present. That means I see them. That means I'm there. That's what it really means.
Right.
Right? If I'm not present as a parent, I don't really see my kids suffering. I don't know what's going on. So that's why I say, if you're suffering as a parent, to me, that's you're being a good parent and you're going to do the best you can. And, even kids or adults who are estranged from certain parents, right? It's nothing is lost. Again, we go back to communication and expressing ourselves, right? And I go back to acknowledgement, and I go back to the apology, and I go back to change and repair.
Right.
And
Repair
forgiveness
is very important.
Forgiveness is huge.
We spoke a lot about repair in the previous episode. So to anyone who's curious about that, that was a really great discussion. So you mentioned something about mothers and suffering. And I know you and I wanted to discuss mothers and burnout.
Yes.
Or parents in general, but we're going to speak in reference to mothers because that's what we can relate to. Now, given the time, we're starting the brand new school year. A lot of people are putting a lot of pressure to do all the things, right? All the sports practices. And we as mothers want to also get on the right track and work harder and look better and be more fit and do all the things. Are women leading themselves to burnout with all of this? Because I find we're sometimes taking on way more than we can chew.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and being aware of that and listening to how your body is feeling. I know we see a lot of kids in so many different activities. And a lot of times it's probably activities they don't even enjoy.
How many activities is too many activities?
Oh. Look, you're asking the wrong person. I'm all about, no, just kidding. I guess how I really did it too as a parent is I always recommended choose one thing and be really good at it.
Just one thing.
One thing.
My kids are in 3 or 4 sports.
Until they figure it out. Right? My kids used to do dance, then tennis, and then basketball, and then until they figured out, what do I like? Right?
But moving forward, it's best to have one thing and not multiple things.
Right? So that they can really focus on that. And again, is it club? How many times a week? Are they expressing not enjoying it? If they're doing fine and it's keeping them busy and it's okay and it's working for you, that's all right. But if you're noticing that they are, again, we don't want them to give up either, but I don't want them to be in something that they're not happy.
Right.
So we do have to pay attention to that, but sometimes they do have to kind of explore. Some kids are more sporty than others, right? They don't really enjoy it. I know I'm bringing up the book because my second book, which is Francine and Her Special Talents, it's a book inspired because my kids were more into theater and not really sports. So that's more of the idea. See? Not sports kid, not into it as girls. And so I said, well, what do you like to do? And they loved theater. They loved, being on stage and doing things like that. And so that was an activity. Do you like drawing? Do you like singing? Do you like an instrument? What is it that you're interested in? And these are just important things to just keep in mind that some parents may say, well, my kid's not into sports, and they have nothing to do when they come home. And I said, no, explore that. Even if you're doing 2, 3 things until they figure out, well, I really like this, and then you just focus on that. Right?
But is it too much for kids to have something every single day of the week? Something happened a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because my kids have an activity after school every single day, Monday through Friday. And then on weekends, we have games. So it's a lot, not to mention homework, not to mention social outings.
Yeah.
And a couple Saturdays, again, our mutual friend Tato had her daughter's birthday party at the park. We went and my boys were not having it. They were just like, Mom, we're exhausted. I said, okay, fine. You're exhausted. Let's go. I selfishly wanted them to stay because it's the right thing to do. It's their friend. You don't want to be rude. I took them home and they were just exhausted. They both took the time to, they relaxed. Then they wanted to watch a movie and then we played a game. And I realized these kids just want to be home. Especially in my situation, right? Where they are constantly changing homes, going from one house to another, that I just realized I don't give these kids enough spaciousness to do nothing. I talk about it all the time with myself, but we are pushing these children to the point of exhaustion.
Yeah. So if it's 3 activities you said?
It's 3 activities, but 5 days a week.
Yeah. So it's a lot, right?
It is
You're
a lot.
noticing that it's a lot. For them, for some it's not. So for some it is, for some it's not. So depending on your kid. And you got to listen to that.
But I think parents sometimes get into the habit of, well, so-and-so's child does it. Mine should be able to do it too.
Can't compare.
I know.
Can't compare. And the parent should ask themselves, is this to satisfy myself? You have to look inward and see, why is that important? Is that important to me or is it important to my child? Right?
I think with a lot of parents, it's important to them.
Yeah.
That's not my idea, but certainly, I do think that happens. Okay. So stick to one thing, find something you really like. I think that's a great point. When it comes to moms now, going into the school year, what are some ways that they might be suffering burnout? Because it's usually the mom that's taking them to all the practices, doing the homework, the weekend stuff. And on top of all that, these moms also have their own lives. So how do you balance all of this?
Yeah. Oh,
and how do you not lead to burnout?
And I always say, I promise you it's going to get better. It's going to get better. I think parents feel a lot of the times that they're not doing enough. It's not enough, right? Or they feel that I just feel like literally like a robot all day from the morning, making lunches. From the morning I get up, taking them to school. I remember, in our mom group, we would say, oh my gosh, I feel like the Uber driver 24/7. And then on top of that, you're working, right?
Yes.
You choose to take them to the activities, right? So maybe you decide to work till 3 if you have the luxury to do that and take them to the activities, and then you're present there, and then come home and then make dinner and then do laundry, etc. And I want to share something, like a story. My friend had visited this is like a few years back, and she had visited me from, she's Moroccan Japanese. Noelle, hi, if she's watching. And when she came, just perspective of culture, right? And not every parent or family household is like this. But I recall I used to do a lot, like everything from the morning routine to feeding them, to taking them to their activities, to the laundry, to the cleaning, to the cooking, like all these things. Obviously,
been there,
have help. You remember that. And she came over because she stayed with us, and she said, Regine, I would die if I had this life. I could not do this. I can't believe she's like, you're constantly moving and doing stuff, whether it was cleaning or laundry or this or that. I said, what do you mean? This is normal. I'm not complaining about it.
What choice do you have?
Well, she does have for her it was a different perspective, because for her, she had help, she has support. Help, I'm saying like a cleaner there. She has a driver. She has a different lifestyle. But I go back to perspective, right? Because we're talking about burnout. And the question is, was I burnt out? And there's many moms like feeling like I felt. And the burnout, you have to become aware of what that meant. So here's how I controlled the burnout when it would happen. Because it's almost like the feeling like your kids had, like I'm just so tired and exhausted. But then I really forget about myself, right? So I tell parents all the time, well, what is one thing that you can do every day for yourself? Every day, self-care. So does that mean you drop off your kids to school and you set up 30 minutes or 40 minutes of your time to work out? I have a friend, she goes 5 a.m. every morning. 5 a.m. She goes, works out, comes back home, makes her kid the lunch. She's home, takes the kid to school, starts her work day. That's her self-care. It could be anything for you, right? Self-care could also be at the end of the evening, you're going walking with your partner, right? Self-care could be, we did homework, we'll do dinner, and then we'll really set aside 30 minutes and we'll watch something together. Even if I don't want to watch it with my kid, I'm still going to sit there and watch it, right? And just making these little efforts, or it could be taking a bath, or it could be taking care of yourself, whatever that means for you.
And letting it be known to everyone, I need this. To be the mom that's going to juggle everything, I need it. So when your child comes into the room, when you're exercising, you have to say, I need 45 minutes. You're going to be fine. I'll be right there. And not to feel bad about that, because I find we do feel bad.
And how many times when you called me, it's like, Mom, you even hear it, right?
Right,
so,
of course.
They always...
Our children are demanding, but I think it's not going to hurt them to know that mommy needs a minute.
Yes. And letting them know. And that's okay, right?
Right.
So, I know.
A friend of mine, he's divorced, and he's been divorced for quite a while. He has one son, Atticus, and he was telling me, he's like, it's okay for kids to feel disappointed sometimes.
Yeah.
You guys are coddling them too much.
Yeah.
It's okay for them to feel sadness for a moment. It's okay for them to feel all these things. And you're right. It's okay for children to witness their moms being a little selfish and taking that time. How can we create better boundaries with our spouses so that they understand we need this time too, to not lead to burnout when it comes to taking care of all the things?
Well, and I think it's letting them know, right? It's letting them know how we feel. If we don't express to them how we feel and what we need, nothing's going to change.
But to be specific about what we want, right? Yeah. Not, I need help with the kids, but rather saying, I need you 2 days a week to please come home by 6 o'clock so that I can go do X, Y, and Z because I need that break. Yes. Specifically something.
Yes. And I am sure that will be implemented, right? Most of the time. We have to be specific. It's different saying, I want you to make me happy. What does that really mean? I need more detail in terms of how you can make me happy or why I am unhappy in a certain situation or why I am tired or what you could do for me to help me. Some partners want to go to bed at 10 p.m., right? Maybe you want to go to bed at 12 or later, and maybe I'll express to you, it's, could you just be more mindful when you come to bed, like not making a lot of noise because that really disrupts my sleep. That's a request. Or could we really make the effort to cook together? Could you make the effort to, we have to be more specific. Mm-hmm. I think also with couples, what's important is not to criticize, right? And again, that could also lead to burnout sometimes for us moms and when I say criticize, if you're asking someone to vacuum the floor, if you're telling your partner, can you vacuum the floor? I need help with you with the chores. Well, what do you want me to do? Oh, could you just vacuum the living room, for example? If I'm going back to him and saying, oh, you're vacuuming the living room, you're doing a bad job, he's not going to do it anymore.
That's true.
Right? So we have to stay away from critiquing, right?
Or just be happy that they're doing it.
Just
even
be
if
happy
it's
that they're doing
crappy.
it. It's never going to be like you want it to be.
True.
So if we want more help as moms, we have to step away from that critiquing space and, actually, and also praising them too, thank you for getting this, or thank you for doing this for me, or thank you for X, Y, or Z. That goes such a long way because that goes back to appreciation and our kids are watching us communicate.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh. It is the first relationship that they're witnessing, right?
Yes. And they continue to watch. Even when you're co-parenting, they're always watching.
My son, Chris, said to me the other day, he said, Mom, the only thing I want is for you and Dad to be friends. See? I said, really, Jenna? Yeah. You're not like asking for anything else? He's like, no, just be friends. I said, okay.
Yeah, it's really important.
I mean, I don't know how that's going to happen. I'm just saying. But I appreciate that that's really all he wants.
And you know what friends means?
Just speaking nicely to one another.
Just being kind and speaking nicely and...
which is hard to do because we all get frustrated. Even me, I'm a super calm person, but we can all get triggered.
We do. And that's the part where when you do feel triggered or you felt like you didn't speak very nicely or you had a negative tone or you were aggressive or irritable, whether you're married or not, acknowledge that. Acknowledge that. Go deep within and acknowledge that you spoke that way and apologize and say, I'm sorry, I was a little bit nervous earlier. I'm going through a lot. Sorry about that. I don't know. That's just, again, that goes back to when we go back to us being empaths and, lowering the ego. There's no space for ego. Ego destroys it all, right? So there's no compassion there. So it's all of, ego's here and compassion's here. So we have to be able to balance that out. And it takes a lot of emotional intelligence to be able to step back and recognize that you made a mistake.
And create separation.
Yeah.
Well, Regine, will you come back for a third time and then we can talk about the ego and all the other good stuff?
Yes, I will, with pleasure.
You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Too.
This was really informative. I mean, I feel like I got so much from it, especially just for Nikki, and it made me feel better.
Awesome.
Because now I'm not so hard on myself for not being able to figure it out, but rather just giving him the control, giving him the tools.
Yes.
And just being a good example.
Let me know how that works.
I will. You'll hear about it tomorrow.
Okay.
Love you. Thank you so much.
Love you too.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Breaking Through with Alina Obervian. For our community to grow, please like and share, and also leave a review on this episode. Of course, you can find me on social media and let me know what you'd like to talk about in future episodes. Nothing is off limits, so let's have some fun.